Methylated B vitamins are kind of expensive, but before I was taking them, I just felt like I sort of fell victim to all these just like aches and pains and health woes, and they just sort of made me less vulnerable to all of that. I would say if you're one of those people who feels like, I'm just so sensitive to everything, why are things always going wrong in my body? First, look at your stress levels, and second, get tested for that.
Welcome back to the Essentially You podcast, all about reinventing your health with safer, cheaper, more effective natural solutions and powerful lifestyle changes so that you become the CEO of your health. I am your host, Dr. Marisa Snyder. Now, if you've been listening to this podcast, you know that nutrient deficiencies can be a big root cause for cellular compromise and hormonal imbalance. So what I wanted to do is invite my dear friend Gretchen Lidicker back to the show. Now, she was just on the show about a month ago talking about the benefits of CBD oil on episode 103. But today, we're going to be talking about one of my favorite supplements, which is magnesium, because magnesium is a girl's best friend. We are also going to be breaking down some of the most important nutrient deficiencies that many of us are struggling with and really have no idea that we're dealing with it. And lastly, we're going to share what supplements we are each personally taking on a daily basis. Although I will say that I'm probably not going to share my entire list because I do take a lot of supplements. Now, drum roll, please. I also want to let you know that I am planning to set you up for success in this episode because I created a top 11 supplements guide for hormone and cellular support. Now, I don't know about you, but I really love to have epic resources all in one place. And that is exactly why I curated this gorgeous guide. Now, you can find the guide with my top 11 supplements in the show notes for this episode, which is episode number 113. Now, I want to take a moment, as I always do, and celebrate you because your wins matter and they deserve to be celebrated. One particular healing rock star is Anna, and I'm excited to shout out her win that she just shared on Instagram about a couple of weeks ago. By the way, if you didn't know, Instagram is where I absolutely love to connect, and many of you have already figured that out because I get to chat with you on a day-to-day basis. You can find me at Dr. Marisa, that's DrMariza, on Instagram, where I share all kinds of recipes and great information about hormone support. I think you're going to love connecting with me there. So here is what Anna had to say. I just wanted to tell you that your podcast is amazing and so informative. I have struggled with hypothyroid symptoms on and off for years, with my TSH always considered quote unquote normal. Doctors are always telling me that I feel so crummy because I'm tired and I'm a busy working mama and it's normal to feel this way. Your most recent thyroid podcast confirmed that my lab results actually are not within normal range. Your podcast gave me the confidence and knowledge to take control of my health, and I'm going to be seeing a naturopathic doctor next week to get things back on track. Well, Anna, thank you so much for sharing your epic win, and I am so glad that you are loving the episode so far. You know, it takes a lot of bravery to advocate for your health, and I am so happy that you are taking that leap and getting the answers that you deserve. Let me tell you, I am holding space for your continued healing miracles, and if you're listening, Anna, I would love to gift you my Superwoman blend. Just go back to Instagram, holler at me, and I will get your address and send it to you right away. Now, fellow podcast listeners, I would love to shout you out too. You can reach out to me via Insta, Facebook, or simply review this podcast on iTunes or whatever podcast platform you love to plug into. That way, not only can I continue to support more women, but continue to educate women so that they become the CEO of their health, just like Anna. Now let's dive into this incredible conversation with Gretchen. But first, I want to sing her praises. Gretchen Lidicker is a writer, scientist, researcher, and former health editor of the hugely popular wellness site MindBodyGreen. That's actually where she and I met. She was my editor I still write articles for MindBodyGreen, but she was my editor for quite some time. Now, she is the author of 2 books, CBD Oil Everyday Secrets and Magnesium Everyday Secrets. She has worked on the academic and clinical side of integrative medicine for many years. Originally from Sedona, Arizona, she has her BS in biology and a master's degree in physiology. And she is all about alternative medicine. So I am so excited to bring her on. Let's welcome her. Welcome to the Essentially You podcast, Gretchen Lidicker. It's so great to have you back, girl. I feel like it wasn't that long ago.
It wasn't that long. We made it happen quick.
We did. You are so efficient. I love it. And I'm so excited. This is actually, I've been waiting, like holding off on having other conversations about supplementation, talking about it myself because I knew I was bringing you back. And today we're going to be focusing on what we call, I think, a major super player for women's hormone health and women's health and general health is going to be magnesium. But I also want us to touch upon nutrient deficiencies. And I know this is an area of focus for you. But before we get into the nitty gritty of supplements and why magnesium is the bomb.com, I want to know a little bit about your journey in supplements, not only as a researcher, but how they have shifted you in any particular way on your health journey.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, supplements were sort of the start of my health journey. I started getting into them. Well, supplements and nutrition, I'd say. When I was in high school, I had really, really bad asthma. And I was one of those kids that was just like always catching everything. And I would go like get these, upper respiratory infections that would have me in and out of the hospital. I'd be wheezing for weeks and just like, on antibiotics, on steroids, which then, those all have side effects. And basically my immune system was like, for lack of a better word, in the garbage. And my freshman year of college, I started getting into, I cut out dairy and that made a huge difference. And then I got my vitamin D levels tested and I got tested for a couple other nutrient deficiencies. And I got tested for the MTFR mutation by a naturopathic doctor. And really like taking some targeted supplements is really what I credit like getting my health back on track. It wasn't everything, but it made a huge difference. Like my vitamin D levels, even though I was living in South Carolina, I was in the sun all the time, were like so low that even my naturopathic doctor said if a conventional doctor had tested your levels, they would have told you to supplement because they were so low.
Can we just take a moment and can we sell it? I mean, the fact that she has to point out that even a conventional doctor would have said that your vitamin D levels were low. And we're not going to talk about, necessarily lab levels today or anything like that, but just important. And you were actually you were still in your early 20s. You were quite young at the time. So it's interesting to think about when we can start to, we don't even think about a decrease in having a deficiency, a nutrient deficiency, probably until we're older, maybe because we're not even thinking about it at the time. But something that's really important to point out. Also, that you were spending so much time in the sun and yet you were still extremely deficient. So as much as I wish that sunshine, and not to say that sunshine isn't a power player, especially for the mitochondria, it's one of the most important things to be looking out for is a vitamin D deficiency.
Right. Well, and also with, sunscreen, an interesting article came out recently that, kind of talked a little bit about how maybe like sunscreen is also doing a little harm when it comes to vitamin D. And I kind of think that could be true. Like if you're, I was born in the 90s, which was like my mom lathered me in sunscreen every day before I left the house, like head to toe, because everyone was so scared of, I grew up in Arizona. The sun is really bright.
I grew up in the 80s, girl. My mom was in coconut oil.
Oh, no.
We were always on that reactive phase where we were burned up and we just, like my mom slathered me with a ton of aloe vera from my grandma's little aloe vera plant.
It's fresh, yeah.
We were the cautionary tale for you.
You were. I'm so sorry. It's funny. But yeah, so I don't know. It's really interesting. Like there are just so many, I think there are so many factors of our modern life that are putting us at risk for these subtle nutrient deficiencies. And, maybe they're not, rickets level deficiencies, but they're subtle. And I think they affect our health in ways that are really noticeable.
When you were pretty young, looking at your labs and being recommended supplements, did you feel, and not everyone always feels a shift, but did you feel a shift? Clearly you had been dealing with asthma for, it seemed a couple decades at that point, or maybe 15 years.
Yeah. I felt a noticeable shift. I started taking like vitamin D and zinc to try to sort of fend off. Zinc is really good for your immune system. Zinc deficiencies have been connected loosely to recurring respiratory infections and things like that. And I just started getting them less and less. And when I would get them, I would recover more quickly. And then a huge one for me was I would always get these terrible mouth ulcers, like those really painful ones that you get on your tongue. And I started taking the methylated B vitamins. And like in 2 weeks, my mouth ulcers were gone and they never really came back. So like, I know people sometimes get discouraged with supplements where they're like, oh, I took it for 3 months. I didn't notice anything. Why would I pay for it? But I have definitely had experiences with supplements where I notice a benefit right away.
Absolutely. Well, and I think it's important to demonstrate that, we're going to be talking about some really big power players today, like vitamin D and magnesium, where there are hundreds of reactions involved in them. And it's not necessarily, we think about when we don't have the right building blocks in the body, fatigue, brain fog, moodiness, those are the types of things. And when it can be difficult to decipher whether it's a building block issue or if it's inflammation over here, or if the building block is causing the inflammation, I wouldn't say necessarily that a supplement's going to just, change your world overnight or even in a couple of months. But if you're lacking that particular mineral or vitamin, best believe you have to have it to function. And so I think, this conversation around those necessary building blocks, I think are so important because they ultimately show up with struggles in terms of our health and wellness.
Totally. Absolutely.
Well, let's talk a little bit about nutrient deficiencies and, what are some of the most common ones that we need to be looking out for? And I would love to steer the conversation. As you know, this is a women's health podcast. A couple of, what are deficiencies that we as women also should be looking out for?
For me, number one is magnesium. Not just because I wrote a whole book on it and sort of learned all the ways that it impacts our health, but a lot of people are deficient in magnesium. Magnesium, vitamin D. I think zinc is going to become more important. I think B vitamins are really, really important. And especially for women, the birth control pill depletes B vitamins, it depletes vitamin C and vitamin E, which are antioxidants. It depletes selenium, which is really good for your thyroid. So I think women really, there's a whole sort of spectrum of ones that are particularly important. Magnesium deficiency has also been connected to severe menstrual cramps, and taking magnesium for them seems to help. So, and I don't want to generalize, but I do also feel just like because we go through this monthly hormone cycle, women's bodies are just so much more sensitive to those subtle differences,
I absolutely agree. Also, I think ferritin and iron are ones to be looking out for as well. It depends on the person, but I do see that pop up a lot, mainly because I'm working with oftentimes women who are dealing with an autoimmune condition. And those two supplements or those two particular areas show up on the labs that need to be supplemented. It seems to me almost every lab that I look at these days, there's a deficiency here or there, or multiple nutrient deficiencies. Why is it, and I don't know if this is, my guess is I feel like things have really shifted in the last couple of decades, but what are some of the things that you are seeing for the cause for why we are struggling with nutrient deficiencies?
I mean, I mentioned birth control pills.
Yes. That is a big one.
So many women. I mean, I took the birth control pill from, 15 to 22. And that's a long time. Those are like important years. That, but also other medications like antacids can leave you really deficient in B12, which is common. Steroids, even over-the-counter medications, I don't think we know quite enough about what those, can leave us vulnerable to. Also, our food and our soil just at the end of the day does not have the nutrients that it used to have. So, in my book, I say, even if you're eating tons of magnesium rich foods, it might not be enough, because it just doesn't have as much magnesium as it used to. Stress, definitely, stress causes the body to gobble up, its resources more quickly.
It's like a Pac-Man.
Exactly. Yes.
Just eating all of it. I mean, talk about burning through as much as possible. I think stress just is the fire that has you running through everything so quickly.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I also think the gut is playing a role. I think leaky gut or gut imbalances, our microbiome being off, our inability to basically convert our food into energy or breaking it down in an appropriate way. I think that's playing a role as well. And I think that stress lends to that too, but a lot of other things lend to that. Clearly medications and toxins lend to that.
Yeah, you'll see, it's interesting. You'll see a lot sort of in the conventional medicine space. They'll say, when they're talking about nutrient deficiencies, they'll say, a nutrient deficiency in this vitamin or mineral is very rare unless you have, a gut issue. And it's sort of like, who doesn't have a gut issue now? You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, so, and they sort of define it as like, you have a serious gut issue that's been diagnosed, like ulcerative colitis, IBD, H. pylori, something that's really affecting your intestinal lining. But I think everybody has some leaky gut, and so I think you're right. We're just not, even if we are getting them, even if they were in our food, which they're not as much as they used to be, it's hard for us to take that and actually utilize it.
Absolutely. Well, and I think one of the things that we are not talking enough about is, root cause for disease. And I'm clearly the gut plays a major role in a root cause, but also nutrient deficiencies are a root cause to a lot of diseases that are happening, especially hormonal imbalances. I always tell women that's the first thing I want you to look at is where may you be nutrient deficient in so that we can start to plug up those particular areas so we can get you back. And one of the most important supplements that I'm so excited that we're going to be talking about today, I'm sure we'll talk about some other ones as well, but one of the first things I have women look at is magnesium. And it's not like I'm just saying, hey, go willy-nilly take magnesium, but let's go look and see what's going on there, because it is involved in so many reactions inside of the body, over 500 if I'm correct. So how are you seeing magnesium deficiencies in people, and what are some of the symptoms that we can experience if we are deficient in magnesium?
Unfortunately, magnesium deficiency is really hard to test for because most of your magnesium is in your tissues, in your bones. Like only, I think 1% of your body's magnesium is actually circulating in your blood. So a blood test it's not like a vitamin D test that really gives you an accurate read of how much magnesium you have in your body. But estimates are like as high as 50% of people are probably deficient in magnesium. So it's a lot. And most of the symptoms, it's interesting, like they're very sort of subtle, but they all have this sort of common theme of hyperirritability disorders. So headaches, muscle spasms, hypertension, cramps, restless leg, it's like your body is hyperirritable. It's spasmy. So because magnesium is sort of known as nature's relaxation mineral, and it sort of works to do the opposite. It calms you down, anxiety, migraines. It's really interesting because it is very sort of subtle, but really powerful as well.
I feel like when women are taking, or when people are taking magnesium for the first time, or, as a supplement, that one of the first things that they regain is energy. And definitely I've seen women, their cramps are decreased. They don't feel as edgy, but definitely energy is a major player for people when they're starting to take magnesium. Is that something that you initially see as well?
Definitely, which can sort of be counterintuitive for people because magnesium is also used for sleep and it's also used for relaxation. But like I have a whole section in my book about sort of magnesium and chronic fatigue and how it plays a really critical role in like the mitochondria, energy production, and things like that. So that's definitely common. And I say that I'm a little bit divided on IV nutrients. I think these IV bars that are coming up where people go in for a hangover or they go in just for like an IV of B vitamins because they feel like it. I think that's a little bit tricky. I'm not sure how I feel about them yet. But if I had like chronic fatigue or something that was really knocking me sideways, I would definitely try like a magnesium IV to see if it helped.
Okay. So something to consider, but maybe try supplements first.
Definitely. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. And when we're thinking about, clearly we're thinking about something like chronic fatigue, and there's a lot of things that are potentially playing a role there, right? It could be an autoimmune response. It could be, just a lot of stress in someone's life, but just could be a lot of things. I'm thinking about chronic fatigue. Besides magnesium, are there other supplements that you would recommend? Usually I'm recommending something like a CoQ10, basically ways to boost up mitochondrial function. Anything else that you would recommend for someone dealing with chronic fatigue?
I've read a bit about and talked to the people that are making the NAD plus supplements. And I think those are really interesting in terms of mitochondrial health, chronic fatigue, longevity, cellular health, things like that. So NAD plus is something to definitely consider. I also think glutathione is something maybe to consider. Glutathione is one of the other supplements on my list of when I take glutathione, I feel measurably better, like that day, So that's a good one for me.
Absolutely. And for those who don't know what glutathione is, it's one of our super, super antioxidants. And it is such a power player for kind of cleaning up what's going on inside of our oxidative stress, pretty much in every cell in the body. And I take liposomal glutathione every single day myself. Girl, I take a lot of supplements every single day.
How many do you take, do you think?
Oh my gosh. I think I take around at least 15. So I take, as you know, I have Hashimoto's thyroiditis. And so I take activated B vitamins. I take magnesium every single day. I take magnesium glycinate. And we'll talk about the different types of magnesium in a moment. I take ferritin. I take omegas. I take a multivitamin. I take liposomal glutathione. I take a polyphenol blend because I'm a big fan of antioxidants. My first book ever was a book on antioxidants. I've always been quite obsessed with polyphenols. But here's the thing. If you don't have a good gut microbiome, you really can't absorb polyphenols. But that's a lot of supplements. So just be mindful about that. What else am I? Oh goodness. It's all kind of just, maybe I haven't taken them today. Maybe I'm dealing with a brain fog. I take vitamin D3. I take vitamin K. So those are just some of the vitamins that I'm taking. But liposomal glutathione is on that list every single day, mainly because I'm always trying to figure out ways to love my liver. I'm a big fan of loving the liver, and so I'm sure you are too.
Agreed. Yeah, I take the liposomal glutathione too. It tastes bad. Mine is like in a liquid.
Horrible.
Oh, it tastes so bad. Oh my gosh. But it feels like it's really doing its job.
Exactly. Absolutely. Well, one of the other things that I recommend magnesium for women as well, and usually magnesium citrate is for, and not to say that we shouldn't figure out why we're struggling with constipation, but I'm recommending that a lot for constipation. I have a feeling I haven't had the opportunity to look at the book personally. I just finished the CBD book that you wrote after we had you on the show, but is that a natural recommendation that you recommend for people? I find that we are struggling with chronic constipation everywhere.
So many people, especially when I travel, I'm like clutching the magnesium citrate. And there have been actually a clinical trial showing that, I think it was like middle-aged women showing that supplementing with magnesium citrate like improved their bowel movement frequency and all of that. So the science on that is really good. And it really it does what it needs to do, drawing water into intestines and getting things moving. And it's a really natural way to do it. Magnesium's already in our body. It's virtually side effect free. Like you do want to sort of start low and sort of inch up. You can take too much. We'll just say that. But
I've done that.
But magnesium citrate is a really good choice for constipation. Magnesium oxalate, and I'm having a brain fog moment too. I will remember it in 20 seconds, but those ones are they're sort of like the cheapest forms of magnesium. And while they're an okay choice, if you are on a budget and you can really figure out your perfect, dose every day, those ones can definitely give you diarrhea if you take too much.
I love that you travel with it as well. So we definitely travel with it. I don't know what it is. The second my body gets on a plane, the second my body knows I'm going anywhere near the airport, it's like, uh-oh. And it's not like I eat any different when I'm on the road, but everything just shifts in terms of my gut. It's just like, oh no, we're getting on a plane. And so I always travel with magnesium everywhere I go, just in case.
Same. And I do magnesium, like I have a powdered magnesium that I just put into a giant water bottle that I drink like on the plane. And then I also am obsessed with like topical magnesium chloride spray. So I have a little travel size one of those.
Tell me a little bit about, because I've never done a magnesium powder, girl. I just love to have all of my pills in one bottle. So tell me a little bit about that, because I've had a lot of readers and people reach out to me and talk to me about loving their magnesium powder. Do you find that's just an easy way to transport it or to take it with you? Talk to me a little bit about I don't know if there's any difference per se. It's just maybe the mechanism in which you like to consume it.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel like I just am taking too many capsules every day. And I love when I can take something in a different format. Like I love trying to get my turmeric through golden milk lattes. I love, when I can take something topically or under my tongue or, rub it into my skin. So, but I should preface it by saying that the science on like how well magnesium absorbs through your skin is a little bit shaky. So if someone has like a true magnesium deficiency and they want to try it for migraines or constipation or something, like go with a classic supplement capsule or a powder that you drink. To me, topical magnesium is a little bit more self-care oriented. So I'll do Epsom salt baths. Epsom salts, a lot of people don't know this, but they're actually just magnesium sulfate salts. So I do a lot of Epsom salt baths. And then I have a little, like I just said, a travel size of magnesium chloride spray, which I just spray on my feet, like before I get on a flight or before bed. And I notice a really nice difference in my sleep quality when I take that. So while it's sort of like, there are some studies showing it can absorb, some studies showing it doesn't, I find it really helpful. And the best part about magnesium is that it's really reasonably priced.
It is very reasonably priced. I actually have it in with an essential oil blend, kind of like with lavender and cedarwood. And then it's just all in a little roller. And I take that with me for bedtime and it works. And I don't know if it's a combination or maybe it's just the oils, but I love it and it works for me. To note a little bit about the Epsom salt baths, we can speak a lot to that and how important that is. One of the biggest reasons why I love Epsom salt baths is because of the detox properties that we can experience from that. And usually I'm putting essential oils in there too. Sometimes I'm putting apple cider vinegar, but there was something that I just learned, and I don't know how I didn't know this before, but you got to put in a lot of Epsom salts. So recommended at least 3 to 4 cups. I was doing a cup in my big old bathtub. And so definitely have stepped up the magnesium, the Epsom salts. Like I'm dumping half a bag into my bath. And luckily they're not that expensive. They can be.
Yeah, they're really cheap. And that sort of makes sense now that why they're sold in such a giant bag, because you really do. Like you need I put 2 to 3 cups in my bathtub and it's small. So yeah, you really do need the water to be really concentrated with magnesium. So don't just sort of sprinkle some in.
No
really
sprinkling here. Like dump.
Dump.
Looking for a dump method. And I just didn't know. And I'm thinking about all of my books with all of my recipes in it. And I'm just like, it was, I think about a month after my last book got published that I was like, oh my gosh, this is just way too small of an amount. So I'm glad we are clearing the air here. So for those who are listening, dump it into your water. And there's so many benefits to doing an Epsom salt bath, but detoxification, relaxation, muscle support, those are all the big ones for me.
Yeah, it's my go-to after like a tough workout. It's a really nice Epsom salt bath. Or like I actually do it now in the morning before I travel, which is like a morning bath is very luxurious, but
it is.
But it's really helpful just because, you get so achy and sort of sore and stiff when you're sitting on a plane, and it really helps.
Well, let's be honest, planes are straight toxic. There's so much, I'm not trying to scare people, but just be mindful, drink a lot of water and do your best to really kind of reset the system. I mean, people sometimes tell you to take activated charcoal and all kinds of stuff, because you're getting on a plane, but I just recommend at least drinking a lot of water when you're up there. So that is my recommendation. I'm not going to go into all the detox recommendations for flying. It's a lot of work. A part of me is just like, I can't do all that. I'm just going to get on this plane and get off this plane and keep it
fast as I can. Yeah,
exactly. We talked about some of the benefits of magnesium. I know that it can be very difficult to test magnesium. We talked about that because so often it's actually in our tissues. How do we figure out? Is it just that we're feeling crappy and maybe it's one of the first things that we should try?
Yeah, I think the best way to do it with magnesium is, because it's not that expensive, is just take it for a month, take it, try it, and see what happens. Because the symptoms are a little bit vague. Like they all have those similarities, like that hyperirritability thing. But it really is, if you're struggling with, headaches or cramps or menstrual cramps, things like that, just try it out and see if it works. Constipation, just test it out and be consistent about it for, and I love doing that because it's like, if I try this supplement and I do it for 60 days religiously and it doesn't work, I feel like I can just move on to the next thing instead of sort of always wondering whether or not that was it.
Agreed. Well, and as we were talking about earlier, the magnesium plays such a big role in so many different reactions and processes inside of the body. We are burning through magnesium at a really quick rate. So there's a good chance that we're probably not eating enough greens to get magnesium into the system fast enough. As we talked about, there being a lack of nutrients and minerals in our soil, and that we're probably, most likely, people aren't eating enough greens. I mean, girl, it's still reported that the average adult eats 1.2 servings of fruits and vegetables every single day, and ketchup and fried potatoes make that list.
And I bet a lot of people, that's where they're getting it too. That's pretty, yeah. Veggies are so important, but other high magnesium foods, dark chocolate.
Yes.
Pumpkin seeds, hemp seeds, almonds, leafy greens like spinach, Swiss chard, salmon, yogurt. Magnesium's in a lot of really delicious, healthy foods.
But most likely you're probably going to need to also supplement it.
Yeah, especially if you think if you're taking a medication that might deplete magnesium, if you have a gut issue, if you've been on birth control, things like that are sort of pushing you a little bit over that threshold.
Now, this is a question I get a lot. So people are at Whole Foods or at us, wherever they're at, and they are looking for magnesium, and they're just like, oh my gosh, I have no idea which one of these to buy.
Why are there 100 options?
There's 100 different options of magnesium. I usually steer people to magnesium glycinate, and we're writing up an article. Clearly they can get the book talking about the different types of magnesium, but let's say someone is in the shelf. Is there one particular type of magnesium, and goodness knows, maybe that is way too simple, that we could feel safe doing or using? Or does it really depend on what our symptoms are?
I would say for the everyday consumer who's, not working directly with, if you're working directly with an integrated functional medicine doctor, follow their recommendation. But if you're just wanting to try it, magnesium glycinate is the best choice. It's just the one that all the doctors recommend. It's like the gold standard. It has really high, it's like bioavailability. It's very absorbable. And if you take too much, it won't give you diarrhea. So it's sort of the safest bet with virtually no downside. The only exception to that is if you're taking it for constipation, because since magnesium glycinate doesn't cause loose stools, it's also not going to help with constipation. So in that case, go for magnesium citrate.
Amen, sister. I got both in the house at a given time. Okay, so anything else that we should know, any little tidbit about magnesium that we should know? I've got a couple more questions I want to ask you specifically about supplements, but I want to make sure that we kind of cover this in depth. I feel like we did a pretty good job, but I feel like you're more the expert on this than I am.
I feel like we did a really good job. The only thing I would say is, two small things. First is with supplements in general, just make sure you're buying from a brand that you trust, that's, testing their products for potency, purity, and any contamination, because that does happen, unfortunately. And the second thing, and I write about this a lot in the book, is if your stress levels are out of control, magnesium may sort of take the edge off, but it's not going to. You really have to take a hard look at your lifestyle and ask yourself, can I live like this? Is this sustainable? How is stress affecting my life? Chronic stress is connected to 9 out of 10 of the leading causes of death directly. It's a really serious thing, and we can't magnesium our way out of it.
Yes. And I was going to say that.
People say that a lot.
I have a quote. Usually I talk to people and say you can't green smoothie your way out of chronic stress, because I find that people are like, well, I'm eating so healthy. And I'm like, yeah, but you aren't dealing with your crap, all the stuff. And I was going to just say, yeah, you can't magnesium your way out of chronic stress. You're absolutely right. You can't supplement your way out of it. I know, because I tried. I don't know if you ever tried that.
I've tried too.
No, you got to deal with your stuff. I think on average, we go into sympathetic nervous system dominance 50 times a day. 50 times a day. on average. That is so crazy to me. Like, and so often it's very unconscious. And then it just depletes us so many times, so much. Okay, so that is such a big message. You guys heard it from somebody else, not me. You know, you cannot magnesium your way through chronic stress. Gretchen, what other supplements are you taking, girl? Which ones are you like, oh my gosh, these are the bee's knees? Because let's be honest, as a former health editor for MindBodyGreen, I can't even imagine how many supplements or like concepts around supplements came across your desk every single day.
Yeah, I've tried them all. I mean, maybe not all because, there are a lot, but
you're like, I won't even try that.
And I've been lucky enough to be able to do like a lot of my favorite articles at MindBodyGreen were the I tried it posts where I got to try something personally and like have a consult with this doctor or ask them like my personal questions. We all love to, figure our health stuff out and then try it and write about it. And I've sort of tailored mine. Like I take vitamin D in the winter, all winter. I take like 10,000 IUs of it a day. So I really hit myself hard in the winter. In the summer, I back off a little bit. I take a doctor that I love, Jolene Brighton, who I think you know. You probably met her. Yeah. She recommended that I take omega-3s and curcumin, but just in the second half of my cycle, which I found really helpful. And it's so nice because I feel great in the first half of my cycle. I'm like energized. I feel amazing every day. And then the second half, I fall a little bit off the deep end. So
that luteal
yeah.
Oh,
It'll get you.
It'll get you.
I do I hit those pretty hard in the last half. And I found that really helpful. I take my liposomal glutathione, even though it tastes terrible. I take a multivitamin when I'm traveling. And I really love, I have this multivitamin powder from Pure Encapsulations that goes in my smoothies in the morning. And it tastes like vanilla bean and it's so delicious. And I'm very picky about powders. So I found that one and I'm like, amazing.
Locked in. Yes.
Yeah. I take a probiotic, but not all the time. I sort of switch on and off with my probiotics. Definitely if I've been taking medications or anything like that, I'll get on a probiotic, but I try really hard to do yogurts and fermented foods as much as possible.
How about digestive enzymes? Are you taking any digestive enzymes?
Yeah. And I have ones that are specific for dairy and gluten that I clutch while I travel. I was in Italy late last year and it was those were my go-to and I love those. And I'm a little bit old school. I still do a lot of times a splash of apple cider vinegar before a meal. I just find that really
that
helps.
Is old school. I'll tell you
That's old school, but I like it.
I set the tone for the entire day, but I don't set myself up for multiple times during the day for it. I love that.
Yeah. I just put a little splash and probably 3 ounces of cold water and drink it. And before I eat, and I think I have a little bit of a sluggish digestion and I think it just helps me digest easier. And then I take my methylated B vitamins, which I'm obsessed with.
Absolutely. And can you speak a little bit towards, I know people don't necessarily understand. We talk about activated B vitamins or methylated B vitamins, those being the types of B vitamins that we really should be taking. Can you speak a little bit to, why we should be mindful about more a synthetic derived or an unmethylated or unactivated B vitamin?
I think it's just all about, and this trips a lot of people up with supplements, is just taking a form that's the best for your body to use right away. And that's basically, what methylated B vitamins do is that they just provide the exact, vitamins go through all of these transformations in your body to get to a place where you can really utilize them. And sometimes you need to take one, not in the way that you would get it in your food necessarily, but sort of one that's already transformed to a place where your body can just grab it and use it right away.
Right. So the more bioavailability so that we can just put it into place immediately, whereas having your body try to figure out what to do with it in order to be able to utilize it. Do you have a favorite place that you like to get your activated B vitamins?
I use the ones from Thorne. Methylated B vitamins are kind of expensive, but before I was taking them, I just felt like I sort of fell victim to all these just aches and pains and health woes, and they just sort of made me less vulnerable to all of that. I would say if you're one of those people who feels like I'm just so sensitive to everything, why are things always going wrong in my body? First, look at your stress levels, and second, get tested for that.
Well, and especially for women with hormone, we're thinking about hormone metabolism, estrogen metabolism, all of that that's happening inside of the liver. And your liver is desperate for methylated B vitamins in order to get phase 2 liver detoxification pathways running and open. So often, a lot of us are struggling with phase 2 liver detoxification pathways. And I think methylated B vitamins really change the game. There are definitely other supplements that you can take, but because methylated B vitamins play so many other roles in the body, it's just kind of one of those safe bets that you are knocking out hundreds and hundreds of birds with one stone.
Totally.
I love your regimen, and I'm glad you're I am such a digestive enzyme nerd. And I honestly think everyone should be taking digestive enzymes at this point because of, just like you said, everyone's dealing with some type of gut issue one way or the other. And why wouldn't we want a little bit of help when it comes to breaking down our food, especially if you're at a restaurant and maybe you are gluten intolerant or you're gluten sensitive or dairy or whatever that may be. And it can be really difficult to know exactly what's in your food, or maybe you're not breaking down lipids and fats as well. So sometimes I love a digestive enzyme that's got ox bile in it, so that if you're having any fat malabsorption issues, you can get some assistance there.
Totally. Yeah. Love digestive enzymes.
Gretchen, honey, any other regarding supplements or anything that you absolutely love in the supplement world that you want to mention before we take off?
I guess I would say, as the health editor, former health editor at MBG, there are always studies coming out that are the headlines in all the newspapers. There was a study that came out, I think last year, that was like, omega-3s are BS. Don't take them. Or, there are some studies that are like, multivitamins don't work. Don't take them. But you really have to look at the details of those studies. And most of them don't even have any requirements for the type of multivitamin people are taking, how often, how consistently they're taking them. You really need to, if you see a headline like that, just dig a little bit deeper. Because while there are some supplements that haven't been studied very well, there's a lot of research that sort of pseudo-debunk supplements that I think just doesn't really hold up. So, just dig a little bit deeper. That's what I would say, because I think, the media loves to sensationalize things one way or the other, and do a little bit more investigating is what I'd say.
Agreed. And on the topic of that, one of the things that you'd mentioned, I think in anything that we're taking for our health and wellness, that we should absolutely always go and do our research. Find a company that you like, maybe look at reviews for what you see there, although sometimes reviews can be a bit challenging as well. But just make sure that you're going out and doing your research when it comes to, I know how hard it can be to be at a nutrition store or Whole Foods or a grocery store, maybe even Target, I don't know, and trying to decide what supplements to take. I would say that's the one recommendation as well, is to, as always, we should really just be proactive in doing our research. Just talking about the supplements that we're taking, I think about all the different companies. I take Pure Encapsulations, I take Thorne, but there's definitely other ones that I take as well. It just really depends on the supplement. It really varies. I don't just use one particular supplement line for all of my supplements.
Totally. Doing some research. And I think some really good signs if you're evaluating a supplement company is, if it's a big supplement company, they really should be investing in research in some way, and also consumer education. And they should have those sort of arms on their website, within their company. And I think that's a really good sign that you're headed in the right direction.
Because that's probably one of the other biggest questions I get so often is, what, you want me to take this? Where do I get it? They want to know what I'm recommending for good reason. And clearly there are places I can steer people to that I feel confident in. But if you're listening and you're not necessarily connected to one of us, that would be our best advice when it comes to that. And I will say, on the heels of what you said, Gretchen, as well, that as a practitioner and looking at so many labs over the years and seeing how we're struggling, we are lacking a lot of vitamins, essential minerals, very specific and necessary antioxidants. And so we're just at a place today, I feel like, where it's some sort of supplementation is necessary. And I wouldn't be taking, believe me, I wouldn't sign up for all these supplements if I didn't think I absolutely needed to take them, because it's a lot of supplements to swallow every single day.
I feel like I can do like 4 at once now, though. It's just like down the hatchet.
Yeah, I can do about 3 to 4 at once. And it all depends on the size. Some of those big mamma jamma ones, I'm like, okay, maybe two at a time here. And there's all kinds of wonderful techniques to take supplements if you struggle with it. Clearly, some like Gretchen, you are doing, you're actually adding them to your smoothies, which I love, love, love. And I add all kinds of yummy goody things to my smoothies, including maca and matcha. Although those aren't necessarily supplements, they're really fun to add. So thank you so much, my dear, for jumping on. I know you're going to have the first chapter for your magnesium book as a little gift. You guys are going to love, love, love this. But Gretchen, where else can we find you? Where else can we can tuck into your information, to what you're getting into, your expertise?
Yeah. So my website is just gretchenlidicker.com. And then my Instagram is at gretchen.amanda. And you can find me on there. I have a message thing on my website. And if you guys have any questions, you can reach out. And my website is where I will have the first chapter there for you guys to download. So hope you like it. And thank you so much for having me back.
Absolutely. My pleasure. It's so fun to connect with you. You're such a bright light in this space. And so thank you so much, honey, for sharing your brilliance once again with me.
Thank you.
Bye, honey.
Bye.
Have you ever tried to add magnesium to your daily supplement routine? And if you have, what have you experienced so far? Let me know on Instagram in my DMs. I would love to hear about your experiences. I personally take magnesium every single day. It has been a game change, and I know how important it is to ensure that we have that supplement in our bodies at all times. So often, supplements and those particular minerals are working behind the scenes in hundreds and hundreds of reactions. So you may not even necessarily notice a big difference, but let me tell you, we run through certain supplements and nutrients, vitamins, minerals so quickly that it's important to consistently replenish. Now, I also want to invite you to check out Gretchen's book, Magnesium Everyday Secrets. I think it's amazing. If you wanted to dive into the world of magnesium and understand more how to leverage it for your own personal benefit, then this is the book for you. I also want to mention that at the beginning of the show, I created this epic top 11 supplement guide for you to access. This is one of my favorite supplement resources, and it's everything that you could possibly want when it comes to dialing in what's going to work well for your hormone balance. Now, the link to all of this is going to be in the show notes for episode 113, or you can head to my website at drmarisa.com/podcast and just pull up the episode 113 and grab all the goodies. Well, I just want to say thank you so much for stopping by and listening in to the Essentially You podcast. You are the reason why I do this a couple times a week. Now, on the next episode, I am personally coming back with my own solo episode, and I just love to do solo episodes for you. I get to really dive into the research and create something awesome, and I'm so excited to bring you a hormone action plan. So what I'm going to be sharing is 14 days to reset your hormones naturally. And let me tell you, we have had thousands and thousands of women literally shift their hormones in 14 days, and I can't wait to lay it out for you so that you've got an action plan that feels easy. Well, you know how much I love ease and grace. So tune on into the next episode. Until then, have an amazing day.